All right. So thank you. Thank you, Hemant, for responding. So yesterday we made the UI. We have perfectly made the UI. And this UI is working on multiple screen sizes and on landscape mode as well, right? We also have discussed with we also have discussed about scalable pixels and display pixels yesterday, correct? Are there any doubts from yesterday's session? If you have a doubt, please respond in the chat. If you do not have a doubt, just raise your hands. Thank you, Sarfraz Khan, for responding. Cool. So as no one is responding in the chat, I take it as a no. Thanks. So moving on, we want to bring this into action. When plus button is clicked, I need to increment the score. When minus button is clicked, I need to decrement the score, which is on the text view. So in order to listen to the button clicks, this button click has to be listened, and this button click also has to be identified. For that, I will give IDs to these two buttons. So the first button ID would be plus underscore BTN. When you give an ID, it should start with @ plus ID annotation. Only then this button will be assigned with this ID. Similarly, I have to update the score on the text view, right? So I have to give the text view an ID. So the ID that I want to give for text view is result. Finally, for the last button, do the same way. This is called minus underscore BTN. BTN. Okay. So what will happen with these IDs actually? These IDs plus underscore BTN will be assigned with an integer reference. Okay. And that ID, which is an integer reference, will uniquely identify this button. Similarly, result will be given an integer reference, an integer ID, which is unique, that identifies this text view. Similar is the case with the second button. Okay. Rathod Banti is asking, can you please explain once layout button text view coding part? Okay. So in order to form our design, we picked up linear layout of vertical orientation. Okay. So how does linear layout of vertical orientation looks like? It looks like a stack. One after the other, we need to place the views from top to bottom. Okay. When you write layout, linear layout, it should have a start tag and an end tag, because this is a view group. Inside this layout, I have created a button by simply opening a button and setting up layout width and layout height, and open text view, again setting up with layout height and layout width. After that button, layout width and layout height. So after that, what I did was I displayed some values on top of these views. On the first button, I displayed plus as the value. On the second button, I displayed minus as the value. In the text view, I have displayed 0 as the value. After that, I used on the text view, I used colors. Okay. Background color I've given, text color I've given, size I've given, style I've given, and then it became like this. Gravity to center I have done because the value that is displayed is by default on the top left corner of this view, but I want to bring it to the center vertical and center horizontal, which is typically the center of the screen. I mean to say center of the view. And by luck, center of the view has also become the center of the screen. For that, I used gravity. Finally, I want to scale up this view for any screen. Also, I want this view to be responsive. The entire design to be responsive. Responsive in the sense, if you use it on a small device or low sized device, let's say 4 inches screen device you have, this particular design has to be scaled down. To scale it down, I've used the division rule. Like I have divided the screen into 10 equal parts, assigned the first part to the button with layout weight, assigned 8 parts to the text view with the layout weight, and assigned 1 part to the button with layout weight. When you divide the screen across the height, it is recommended that you make layout height to 0 degree. That is how we got this design. Now this design would work on any screen. Now the today's step is what? Today's sorry about that. Sometimes there is an internet issue. Okay, so today what we did was we simply have given IDs to all the views with the help of Android colon ID attribute. At the rate plus ID is the annotation that represents an ID. So plus button is the ID. At the rate plus ID represents ID, but result is the actual ID. Minus button is the actual ID. And these IDs will be given an integer reference, an integer value in the background so that these views can be identified easily. Right. We want to bring this design into action. So how do we do it? Now, each XML file, when it comes to a activity, you will have a Java file created first. So this is the Java file that is created as soon as your project is created. Remember this thing. Whenever you create a project, hope I'm audible. Am I audible, guys? I don't think so. Thanks, Sarfraj Khan, for responding. Am I audible, guys? Thanks, Akansha. Okay. So, yeah, when you create an activity, remember one thing. When you create an application, I write the points here in comments in documentation format. When you create an application, you would get one activity by default. Each activity will have .java file and .xml file. One .java file and one .xml file. .xml file will have the design .java file displays the XML.xml file to the user and also provides logical support to the design. Hope the points are clear, right? Don't get confused with it. Okay. As we have normal Java files, if you see the normal Java coding, we will be coming across main method. Correct? Can you write a Java program without a main method? No, it's not possible, right? It was possible in the older versions. It was possible in the older versions, but now in the latest versions, it is not possible. Rathod is asking, can we replace XML with JSON? No, not possible, Rathod. Okay. So just like we have main method on normal Java files, we have onCreate method for activity files in Android. Okay. If you see any activity file that you create or any activity that you create, it will be extending to app compat activity. Okay. Which involves a lot of things in the background. Nice. So what we need is set content view method. What does it do? It will just show activity underscore main.xml to the user. That's it. Activity underscore main.xml is shown to the user. So how is activity underscore main referred to? It is referred to with the help of RER, which is our resources.java, layout, which is the static section of resources Java file, and activity underscore main. So this entirely gives us an integer ID in the background. And that integer ID is going to represent this activity underscore main.xml. That is the reason as soon as main activity executes, you will be shown with this design. Hope it is clear so far. Now, what do? We need to get data from the text view, display data on top of the text view. Second thing, when the buttons are clicked, we are supposed to listen to those clicks. Okay. Remember, we gave IDs, right? So connect the button. So when you write button, you get error. But if you write BUT, you get button as the suggestion. If you choose a suggestion, you will not get an error. Why? Because if you see the import statements, these are the import statements we have. Okay, we have two import statements. But if you write capital BUT, you get button as the suggestion, right? If you choose this button, you get the statement imported automatically. I'm not sure if you have seen it, but yeah, if you use suggestions, only then you get the import statements created automatically. Otherwise, you need to write import android.widget.button, which is hard. So button object is, let us say, plus, and that's equal to, you need to connect. What do we need to connect? This is an object for the class. We need to connect the plus button to this object. The plus button has plus btn as the ID. So how do we connect that button? Simple. We have a method called find view by its ID. So how do you get the method? You write FVB, F for find, V for view, B for by, and automatically you'll get ID. Find view by ID. This method, what is it going to do? It is going to search for the ID in the connected XML file, which is activity underscore main.xml in this case, and see if it can get the ID that we give here. So what is the ID of the button? In the ID, you set for plus underscore button. So that's how we are going to connect it. In the similar way, let us connect the text view or the second button first. The second button is called minus. We are going to connect minus button also with the help of find view by ID. FVP r dot id dot minus button. Finally, I want to connect the text view also. So for text view, you can write TV and wait for suggestions. You get text view. So see the import statements. I will select enter right here because text view is selected already. See the import statements. There will be a new import statement coming up. I will say result is equal to FVB R dot ID dot result. Because result is another ID that is given in the XML file. Now you may ask me to if the object is also result, if the ID is also result, will that not collide? No. The result has an ID integer reference, but result is an object that is created for text field. There is a difference. Correct? Now, plus object is connected to plus button. Minus object is connected to minus button. Result is connected to result text view. All right. To keep track of what is being displayed, I will have a variable created to 0. Okay, now tell me the logic. What am I supposed to do? So what is the to-do statement? So to-do one is recognize or listen to the button clicks. And to-do two would be based on the button, update the value on the text field. Okay. If you're following till here, please raise your hands. I want to see how many of you are actually following this. Just want to check it out. Thank you. Thank you, Akanksha Sarfaraj Khan. Thank you, Anil. Thank you, Suprit. Okay, cool. Thank you, Altaf Raja. Great, great to see you guys. Great to see you following. So only when you recognize the button clicks, you can do anything on the text view. Okay. So how do we recognize the button clicks? What import package are? Import package we are using, but which is must which for what? What? Okay. For this button, this is the package. For the text view, this is the package. So what is the confusion? Right. So to recognize the button clicks, what do we do? As Altaf Raja is suggesting, we'll select on click listener. So you can write plus dot. You use a method called set on click listener. In the similar way, okay. First, let us complete the plus button. So for on click listener, we are supposed to create or we are supposed to implement on click listener interface. So when you implement on click listener interface, you would get on-click method to implement. So when the plus button is clicked, we come here directly. So what is the logic that I am supposed to do here? Simply I can write count plus plus that increments the value of count variable by 1. Okay, no problem. You can take this int count, you can cut it from here and place it in the global space, like for the entire class, I would say. Now there is no error. After displaying the count, after incrementing the count, can I directly display it on the text view? I hope we cannot. Because if you see the text view documentation, if you see the text view documentation, if you see, if you want to display some data into the setText method, you're supposed to give an ID, but not the direct integer. So setText can also take a character sequence value, but it cannot take an integer value. It can take an integer value only if it has a reference. So what we do is result dot setText of, we need to convert this count value to a string. Otherwise, you will get an error. If you give count, there won't be any errors coming up. But if you run the application and see the output, your application will crash. So in the logcat, we also get the error report. So let us go to error. Let me open Wiser to show you all my device. Nice. If I hit on plus button, the value will be incremented, but it cannot be shown on the text view. That is why your application will definitely crash. And your application has got crashed because the reason is string resource ID, which is 1, that is coming up here, is not identified. So when you give an integer to the setText method, your setText method is thinking that it is an ID and it has to look for that ID resource, the resource that is having that ID, but it cannot find out. That is why you are crashing. Your application is crashing. So what is the easy thing to do here? You just have to convert this count variable to string with the help of string dot value of count. Now you won't get an error. Shall we check it? Definitely. Why not? The app is up and running. If you hit on plus button, the value is incrementing without hassle, which is simply incrementing. But minus button is not been implemented yet. Okay, so both the to-dos are completed at once. You can place the to-do here. Wrapper class. Okay. So here there is a chance to reduce the number of lines of this code by using Java lambdas. So how do we use it? right click here, go to show context actions and replace with lambda. That reduces the code to a greater extent. It improves the readability of the code as well. You can copy the same code, paste it again, but instead of plus here, you call it minus. Okay, because minus is another button we have. And for implementing minus, you just have to do count minus minus and do the and leave the other things to default. You run the application now, and your application will now be working as per our requirement. Plus and minus. Right. Hmm. So there is still some boilerplate code available. Sorry, there is still some boilerplate code which is written, and we can also avoid that boilerplate code if we want to. But I do not want to confuse you. I want you to complete this application no matter what. So in order to let you complete this application, I will be pushing this to GitHub repository. Okay, let's create a GitHub repository and I'll push this code to GitHub repository. You can find the code there. Okay, I want you to implement this application. This is not the end of the picture. There are still problems with this application. I'll show you one of those problems. Let's say the device is rotated from portrait to landscape, it is rotated. See what's happening to the score? The score is being reset. Now, if you reduce the score to a greater extent and you rotate the screen back to normal, you get to see that the data is reset. Also, the buttons are going in a small way. Yeah. So this is a problem. Um, so we have to address this problem as well. But if I discuss that right now, some people might be able to understand, and most of you might feel difficult to understand. So let us do it step by step. All right. So if you are able to complete till here, though there is some boilerplate code or just boilerplate means that you write the same code for multiple times. Okay, multiple times. Saved instance state is used for the same purpose, Akansha. I mean, the purpose that I've shown you here. Even in this, even when the screen is rotated from landscape to portrait and portrait to landscape, the activity will be recreated. In that case, if you want to restore the values, you're supposed to use saved instance state. That is why it is available as a input argument for onCreate. All right, we will talk about it. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow and day after tomorrow are holidays. On Monday, we'll talk about it. So you can spend these 2 days in implementing this application. Also try out new things if you want to. Don't don't hesitate to experiment. Only if you experiment, you get to ask more questions. Yes, bundle is a data structure, Altaf. You can explore more about bundle on Google, right? So I'm creating a repository and I will be updating this code to repository. And I got a long question. Let me see what it is. When we convert int into string, we don't need it. He is automatically doing except char. What happening here? It means every value should be in string. Okay. For set text method, you can give an integer also, but that integer must be an ID of a resource as per the documentation. Correct. So if you want to directly display the integer, it is not possible. That is why. That is why it is not possible. As soon as you give an integer, your set text is thinking Your set text is thinking that this ID must be a, this integer must be a ID of a resource. That is why it is going to the resources and searching for the resources with that ID. It is not able to find out. So it is crashing, not understanding what this integer is. That's why we have to convert the integer to a string before we display it on the text. Before we display it on the text view. Hope this is clear. If not, let me know what it is. You need not to write string dot value of also. This is easy way of doing it. There is a difficult way of doing it, and that is by writing double quotations and adding count to it. Even this works. But this is very bad way of doing it. Okay. Concatenating your count value to an empty string will also convert this entire thing into string. This we know from Java programming, correct? But we are not doing it. We're simply using the default functions, which is string dot value of, and then we are passing this count value to it. That is actually converting this count value to string. It is clear. If you do not respond, I don't understand, Rathod. Thank you for responding. Right. So the data is pushed to GitHub repository. You have the code here, guys. You can open this score tracker and complete it. So this is for part 1. So I want you to make use of this link and complete this coding by Monday. We shall meet again on Monday. Okay. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow, please take your time to complete this code tracker. Okay. Let me add. Okay, no issues. So that is the first assignment for you. Create. If you haven't installed Android Studio, install Android Studio, open the project, work with score tracker application, close it, close the part 1 without feeling it difficult. So how do we download this project? Simple, guys, very simple. You go to this repository and here you get code. You can click on download zip. Then you'll get this application. So you can open this application on your Android Studio. That's one thing you can do. Otherwise, if you get doubts, you can go to these folders: app, src, main. Now you get Java resources Android manifest. Based on this, you can go to any particular folder and see the code related to whatever is required. All right. So this is going to be our repository till the end of the session. So I give you this link already, right? Please bookmark this link. And that's it for the day. I don't have much to discuss today. We have discussed whatever is essential for part one. Tomorrow, I mean to say on Monday, we will start off part two. Yes, Ashish. Uh, Ashish and Supreet, please contact John sir. Ping him on WhatsApp. Just ping him on WhatsApp and ask for the recording session. Okay. The recording session will be uploaded to YouTube and those links will be shared with you. Yeah, they are still in uploading process probably. So once they are uploaded, they'll definitely give you the links for all the sessions happened so far. Okay, there are actually 4 or 5 sessions that have happened. All the session links you'll get it. They have to upload it to YouTube, right? So there is a delay. Right? Please understand the problem. Meanwhile, you can try out these resources that I have shared you in the chat. You must have already bookmarked it. So please try out the resources and try your hands on this project. With that said, so we shall meet again on Monday. Okay, we shall meet again on Monday. Use Saturday and Sunday to finish off this project for yourself. Today is 27, 28, 29, 30. Thank you so much. I wish you to have a fantastic weekend ahead. Enjoy your weekend and along with the enjoyment, take out 1 hour or 2 hours and work on this project. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye. Good day, Ashish.